So now we're moving on to a last speaker of this session, Hamid. Hamid Rasouli Sadabad, a research associate from our side, who is working on the InToxFIRE project, and he will talk about how effective a gear is at blocking chemical exposure, so what the experiments say. So, Hamid, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Svetlana, for introducing me, and thank you very much to all of you, all the the nice talks before me, and also nice participants who are with us so far. In this presentation, I'm trying to give an answer to a very important question which comes to lots of minds as a part of InToxFIRE project, which is how effective are gears at blocking chemical exposure? What the experiments say? And next slides, please. Yeah. And the first slide, like I've allocated it to say why the chemistry of fire is important. Like we know fire generates a wide range of chemicals, some of which are toxic, carcinogenic, irritant, etc. And in the previous talks, like they've been discussed in detail. And the content and quantity of the generated chemicals are not identical in fire events, and it is dependent to different parameters from the type of burning matter, which can be wood, polymers, synthetic materials, batteries, to ambient conditions, availability of oxygen, temperature, and coincidence of various parameters all together. All of these parameters can affect the type and the quantity of the generated toxicants. So exposure to these chemicals is likely to impose loads of acute and long-term health problems to humans and also to even other creatures like animals and sometimes the plants also. But next slide, please. And so why should we determine the transfer of chemicals through PPE? It was very important for us because like any of the people other than firefighters or trainers may come rarely to fire events. But when it comes to firefighters and like trainers, like they are frequently exposed to these chemicals in different conditions, in different levels. And so they are prone to adverse effect of toxicants. And but we may be faced to this answer. So what is the concern? They wear PPEs that protect them to a good level. Yeah, but what does a good level mean? Like 99%, 95%? Is it durable? Same in various conditions? And also we know some of those chemicals such as benzoalpha-pyrene, benzene, formaldehyde are categorized as known carcinogenics as like specified by IARC group 1 carcinogenic materials. Next slide, please. So what we aimed in this part of InToxFIRE project was to run some experiments to answer to some of those questions. At least we do our effort on it. And in this line, we try to simulate the fire event conditions in the current presentation, which is a small-scale laboratory setup, but we are going to go further later, to determine the nature and the type of chemicals generated during fire events. They are, I can say, more than thousands of chemicals can be generated in every fire event, even we consider it a very simple one. But we mainly focused on volatile organic compounds, VOCs, and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons in this presentation, and also to evaluate the effectiveness of the studied ensembles in inhibiting different chemicals from passing it through the ensemble towards the firefighter's body. Next slide, please. Yeah, the brief protocol of the experiments I showed here is like what we are doing daily in this type of experiments. We place the ensembles and the setup, and you can see it in a very humble photo, like in the left down part of the slide. And it is not that much. It looks like to be very simple, but it is complicated because it has ability to log and monitor the temperature, the relative humidity, the pH of the generated smokes there, like steam and smoke there, and Also, it is possible it collects every type of like chemicals inside, so we can extract it later and use it. So what we do, place the ensembles in the setup, run the exposure test by burning model substances in controlled conditions, and then we do monitor and log ambient temperature and relative humidity to see how close are our testing conditions to real conditions. And we check them visual to see like what's happened to ensemble samples. And finally, we collect condensates. You see two bottles like in the third, in the photo in the middle, in the down part of this slide, and then condensates from the front chamber, which is exposed to fire in front of ensemble, and its back, which is not in touch with fire. So and then we take it to to one of our most modern equipments and analyze them to detect what type of chemical is there. For polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons and for volatile organic compounds, we use gas chromatography, mass spectroscopy, and we developed some models and methods to analyze them. Next slide, please. Yes, and just to say, like, what are our, we try to keep the conditions of the fire experiments are very similar and as identical as possible. So in this presentation, the results are related to two sets of new ensembles, new ensemble swatches, which one of them contains PFAS layer on its membrane, and the other one has no PFAS layer on its membrane, but it has some water repellent materials on its final layer. And the fuel that we are burning in exposure test are important. It is 10 gram solid plus 10 gram hexane. And it's made of different of them, like the wood 40%, PU foam 20%, polyethylene terephthalate 20%, polystyrene 10%, polyvinyl alcohol, it is like 10%. And because, you know, when there's a fire event and the level of air and available oxygen is lower, so the lower the available oxygen is, the more toxic the generated materials will be. And if we consider it as a rule of thumb, so here we provided a huge amount of air to our experiments, which is 400 liters per minute, to see even if availability of high level of oxygen, what sort of toxic chemicals will be there. Then in the lower content of oxygen, there will be more toxics there. And there's a slight suction pressure there, and also test time is like 3 times of 15 minutes, and the table shows also some of the monitored initial results. We can see the released steam pH. In front parts of the chamber, it is very acidic, between 2 to 3 for both ensembles, but also in their back, it is similar to a reference. So it is good. It shows that they blocked the acidity like to a good level, not to be shown there. Also for condensate pH, which it is related to the generated toxicants there. So the front part, in both ensemble is 2.5 plus negative 0.1. But for the back one, for the back of the ensemble, with the ensemble with PFAS layer on its membrane, it is similar to reference. But in the one with no PFAS layer on its membrane, it dropped slightly to weak acidic conditions, which is 5 plus negative 0.1. And in terms of relative humidity, both ensembles in back of it are very close to the reference. Next slide, please. And also this slide shows two graphs related to the temperatures, which is monitored during the experiments. We can see the blue one, like in the top graph, it is related to the temperature of fire, but the two lines in the lower part, which is the brown one and the gray one, are related to the temperature in front of ensemble and in the back of it. And in the lower the graph in this slide, we can see this more clear. And the temperature, like versus time, like it is, we try to simulate and keep the conditions very close to what happens to firefighters in real, like fire events. Then next slide, please. Also, after running the test, we open the ensembles. Like Here you can see two sets of them. Like the upper row is related to the front of the ensembles, and the lower row is related to their back. The white one, like in the sets of ensemble with PFAS layer on its membrane, we can see in the middle one, the white one is like a PFAS layer on the membrane, and we can see on its front there are some dirt or some sort of black stuff on side, but its back is clean. But if we move to the right ensemble, which is the yellow layer in the without PFAS on its membrane, we see both sides are clear. So it shows that if something reached it, so they passed through it. Next slide, please. Yeah. This is the most horrible slide. I can show it to you, okay? Because a lot of things can happen in fires, and again, lots of things we see are related to the physical things. But this is the real scene, real view of what it is generated during fire. Those those shapes which are in which are in hexagonal shapes are related to the aromatic materials. The more cycles you see there, the more like parts you see there, the more carcinogenic the material will be. And this is the front of the ensemble, which is generated during the fire. And these are not the exhaustive list because there was numerous number of materials. We detected them down here. I just showed the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons here. We can see from the very down in the left side, we can see benzoic acid, which is a VOC. It is not toxic, but then it moves to naphthalene, then acetonaphthene, then anthracene, then pentatrene, then pyrene, which is so horrible material, and certainly it's carcinogenic, and then goes to the benzo-C-phenanthine, benzo-G-phenanthine, benzo-alpha-anthracene, benzo-alpha-pyrene. Another important thing here, I noticed in the previous presentations, like there were, it was mentioned that some sort of PFAS materials are released by PFAS. We can see one of them here, which is 2-fen-1,4-diol 2,3-dimethyl 4,3-fluoromethyl. So it is the one we noticed. It is released with the ensemble with PFAS. Next slide, please. You see here is more quiet in terms of the number of the chemicals, and we see approximately none of those horrible materials pass through the ensemble. It means that ensemble could keep them and could inhibit them from passing. What the only materials who passed from ensemble was related to, in terms of PAH, it was related to the naphthalene and naphthalene related compounds. But the other thing is very good to mention is like we can see very huge molecules which are not PAHs, but they are linear materials, and we can see even if they have a huge molecules, but they can pass through the ensemble. Next slide, please. Again, this one shows what it is generated during the fire. We can see lots of the materials are almost the same, so it shows that the fire generates all of those. Next slide, please. And again, and these are the materials which pass through the ensemble without PFAS layer on its membrane layer. So we can see here, none of those like cyclic, polycyclic aromatics are existing here except naphthalene and naphthalene related compounds. But again, here we can see lots of huge linear molecules. They are super huge molecules, like for example, eicosanoic acid or hexadecanoic acid methyl ester or eicosanoic acid methyl ester. This type of materials like greasy type, but acidic greasy. So after any fire event, if the firefighter thinks like it is itchy, it is greasy, they are more, highly likely to be related to these types of material. And next slide, please. And to take home message from our experimental results, both ensembles are effective against diffusion of large PAHs. Only naphthalene and its related compounds could pass through it. Naphthalene and its derivatives were able to diffuse to both ensembles. Linear chemicals are able to pass through the ensembles even if they have a super large molecules. Ensembles with PFAS on its membrane showed better barrier effect in stopping linear compounds to pass through it. And ensembles with PFAS on its membrane is likely to release fluoride-containing compounds to its exposed face to fire. Next slide, please. This is a part of an ongoing project since the InToxFIRE is ongoing, and these are the list of parameters that we are targeting to expand our study with more ensembles, with different a number of like parameters, operational parameters to assess. And next slide, please. Thank you so much for your attention, and sorry that it took a little bit later.